Ted Cruz is an operator. He knows exactly what he's saying and what he's doing.
Well, we're going to see the decision soon in the next week to 10 days. And I believe the court is going to do something that many of us have been working for and praying for our entire lives. I believe the court is going to overturn Roe versus Wade. It was the right thing to do. Roe versus Wade was wrong when it was decided in 1973, and it's been wrong all 49 years of its history. It's resulted in the lives of over 60 million unborn children being taken. Now, when that decision comes down, we're going to see the left lose their mind. We're going to see, sadly, organized riots. I fear we're going to see organized violence. I think we're going to see something very similar to what we saw in 2020 with the Antifa and Black Lives riots across the country. We're already seeing Democratic politicians directing violent rioters to go to the justices' homes, to threaten the justices' homes. We saw someone arrested for attempted murder of Justice Kavanaugh, and I think we're deliberately going to see violence used as a tool of political terrorism by the left. And I got to say, Sean, it's infuriating that Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, refuses to enforce the law. It is a federal crime to protest at a justice's home while a case is pending. The Department of Justice under Biden refuses to enforce that law. We're seeing pro-life centers, pregnancy centers targeted, firebombed, and the Department of Justice is not doing a damn thing about it. And so if we do see organized left-wing violence, then it is incumbent on law enforcement to do their jobs to protect people and keep people safe. So when the decision comes down, I believe it will be a time for great celebration, but it will also be a time when we need law enforcement to do its job.
He's trying to stoke fear in people, and the people that are watching Ted Cruz in these interviews that he tweets about are Republicans. So he's trying to create this divide between Republicans and Democrats that actually doesn't exist. I like to engage with everybody. I like to communicate with everybody. I'm not a Democrat, but I am pro-democracy, and I care about freedom, and I care about liberty, and yet my views seem to be more aligned with the left because of that. Because imposing your religious beliefs, wanting to overturn Roe v. Wade, because you're a Christian and you believe the Bible says that you should not abort a fetus, that is imposing your religious views on non-religious people. That is a form of totalitarianism. That's not freedom. The Supreme Court hearing a case and siding with a family that want public money to be used to pay for a child to go to a religious school. That is not a separation of church and state, as is required by the Constitution. That is, again, imposing a religious connotation upon non-religious people. And this will keep happening because the Supreme Court is stacked on the far right, not just the right, but the far right. Just ask Ginny Thomas, she'll tell you. Her friend knows all about this. My point is that we cannot have a civilized society when politicians are not being civilized with their language. And Joe Biden, the worst he's said recently is referring to ultra-MAGAs. I don't particularly think that's a good idea to use that phrasing because, it gets misconstrued. But I know what he's getting at, and that is that people who are fundamentalists, people who are in the cult of Trump. And it seems that everyone now on the right is in the cult of Trump, trying to suggest that Antifa is a thing and that there'll be violence and there'll be, protest and criminal damage. This is the language of Ted Cruz. This is the language of Republican senators and Congress people when they speak out. They talk about Democrats like they are some violent, angry mob when they are not. Antifa doesn't exist. It's not a thing. It was created by Donald Trump and designated a terrorist organization. That is a fascist move, of course, isn't it? To say that anti-fascists are terrorists makes you the fascist, Mr. Trump. To criminalize people that have not committed criminal acts is, again, it's what you would see from Putin. It's why he arrested Alexei Navalny at the airport. This is what totalitarians do. This is what autocrats do. And aligning with these people, wanting to be on the side of Russia and not Ukraine, this is a sign to me that our civilized society is collapsing, and I take it very seriously. And, it's difficult to get into America. I choose to live here because I love America, but it's not easy. I had to be interviewed multiple times, jump through hoops. I even had to give a sample of my blood. I'm prepared to give blood to live in America, but I fear that America is going to collapse. This experiment will fail if our elected representatives talk about the opposition like they are vermin, like they are violent, like they are aggressors when they are not. Democrats want to engage. They want to be bipartisan. Joe Biden has tried time and time again to bring about bipartisan legislation, and it's just stonewalled every time by Republicans. So you can't have people like Biden, whose views are nuanced, as most Democrats' views are nuanced. It's not simple like Republicans, anti-abortion, build the wall. It's very simple language. You need to engage with Democrats. You actually need to converse and talk in depth. That's how you come to conclusions and find solutions. It's called negotiation. They can't even agree on legislation to prevent school shootings, to control guns. There's no desire. So you tell me who is the more violent, who is the aggressor, if Republicans are refusing to allow people to practice their religion or to be multi-faith, multi-ethnic, to be multi-gender, to choose their gender. We're asking Republicans just to accept people for who they are, whether they're black or white or straight or gay or trans or cis, it's irrelevant. Allow people to be who they are. That is freedom. That is liberty. And yet all of those policies are being blocked by Republicans, whether it be in the Supreme Court or at the state level. Who is the autocrat? Who is the totalitarian? Who is the aggressor? Who is carrying the guns? Who is being threatening? Democrats are none of those. None of those. They're not even one of those. So to have Ted Cruz lie about who Democrats are, and yet claim that Roe v. Wade should have been overturned years ago, imposing religious views on non-religious people, to me this is the collapse of the American experiment. This is where our uncivilized society is going to be everywhere. And I'm worried because, the lies being told about people's views, because there's this refusal to engage, this refusal to debate. So all you have to go on if you're a Republican is what Ted Cruz is telling you, or whichever senator is being interviewed by a far-right or right-wing news agency. It worries me. We are collapsing. There is no engagement. There is no connection between the left and the right. It is drifting further and further apart. And what will be the result of that is a civil war in the middle. That's when the violence will come, because of politicians' refusal to engage and to operate in a bipartisan and civilized manner. That's if climate change doesn't kill us all first. I'm Anthony Davis. You can hear me every day on the 5 Minute News podcast and on Sunday mornings doing long-form political interviews on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.